Hello, once again I welcome you to this paper of special paper 4. In this lecture we are going to talk about one of the critic from romantic literature, romantic age, named as Samuel Taylor Coleridge. You are familiar with Samuel Coleridge as far as poetry is concerned. So Samuel Coleridge was born in 1772 and died in 1834. So Samuel Coleridge, in his Biographia Literaria, wrote about two concepts called imagination and fancy. So Biographia Literaria was published in 1817. We know that Samuel Coleridge or H.T. Coleridge is a contemporary of William Wordsworth, who is also a poet and a critic. So in the last videos we discussed about some of the salient characteristics of the romantic criticism. In romantic criticism, the focus is on emotions, focus is on passions, focus is on intense sort of feelings or passions. So it is different from neoclassical trend or neoclassical school of criticism, where truth and reason was prominent. But in a romantic period, the critics like William Wordsworth and H.T. Coleridge, they have emphasized on mind, they emphasize on soul, and they emphasize on emotions, passions and feelings. In the present work, from Biographia Literaria, H.T. Coleridge elaborated his thoughts on the concept called imagination and fancy. As I mentioned earlier, it was published in 1817. Its first publication was in 1817. So in 13th chapter of Biographia Literaria, in the 13th chapter of his Biographia Literaria, he elaborated or talked about the concept called imagination and fancy. So H.T. Coleridge has divided imagination into two types. According to him, there are two types or two categories of imagination. He put it as primary imagination and secondary imagination. So it is essential to understand what is imagination for H.T. Coleridge and how he put it, and what is primary imagination and what is secondary imagination. So primary imagination is the power of receiving. So H.T. Coleridge stated that, H.T. Coleridge put it as or proposed it or wrote it, according to him, the primary imagination is the power of receiving impressions of the external world through the senses. It means that through the senses, human beings are able or capable to receive the impressions of the outer world. So this reception of the impressions of the outer world through the senses is primary imagination. In primary imagination, focus is on just reception of impressions of the outer world, and these impressions are received by the senses. The sense plays important here as far as the reception of impressions of the outer world are concerned. Then he also added that, so primary imagination is involuntary act of mind. So it is not an activity which is taken place on deliberate basis. It is intentional, or it is called as involuntary act. So it is also the power of perceiving the objects of sense, both in their parts and as a whole. So the objects which are received by the senses are received in both in part and as a whole. So both are important in primary imagination. The objects can be received as a whole and as in parts. So these two things, that is parts and whole, are important. The objects can be received by the image, by the senses, as in a part and as a whole. After that, he writes, human mind unconsciously receives the outer world. So this is unconscious activity. It is not a conscious activity. It is activity where the person is not conscious at the time of receiving the impressions of the outer world or the external world through the senses. So senses brings the impressions of the outer world to the mind. Mind receives it, but it is this reception is not a conscious act, it is unconscious activity, it is involuntary act of mind. Then it imposes some order on those impressions. Whatever the impressions are brought to the human beings, to the mind of the human beings through the senses, later mind bring it in a proper order. So it reduces them to shape and size, that the mind is able to form the clear picture of the outside world. So impressions which are brought to us through the senses, then at the mind they are reshaped, they are resized, so that the clear image, the clear picture of the outer world can be presented. So in this way, clear and coherent perceptions become possible. So reshaping, the resizing helps the poet to provide clear and coherent picture of the outer world. So primary imagination is universal. So primary imagination can be possessed by anyone. So as far as the primary imagination is concerned, S.T. Coleridge pointed out that the primary imagination is unconscious, primary imagination is involuntary act of mind, primary imagination is the power of receiving impressions of the outer world, primary imagination is universal, primary imagination can be possessed by all, primary imagination is unconscious activity, and the mind try to bring it or put it in proper shape and order. Then S.T. Coleridge elaborated on secondary imagination. As we already mentioned, he divided imagination into two types, that is primary and secondary. So in secondary imagination, according to him, the secondary imagination is the attribute of only the artist. It means that only the artist can possess the secondary imagination. It doesn't mean that others do not have this secondary imagination. Others may possess the secondary imagination, but it is a specific attribute of the artist. So secondary imagination makes artistic creation possible. In order to produce, in order to write something, in order to present something as in the form of literature or in the form of poetry or a poem, so secondary imagination is important. That is why S.T. Coleridge pointed out that, or said that secondary imagination is important because artistic creation becomes possible when there is secondary imagination. Then secondary imagination is more active and conscious in its working. So compared to the primary imagination, secondary imagination is active. Primary imagination is less active. Primary imagination is the unconscious activity of mind. On the contrary, secondary imagination is conscious activity. Secondary imagination is more active and secondary imagination is deliberate activity. Primary imagination is universal. On the contrary, secondary imagination is not universal, it is specific only to the artist, and artistic creation becomes possible when the person possesses secondary imagination. Then after that he added that for secondary imagination the effort of will is important. There should be volition, there should be effort, there should be conscious effort from the person. So it is not the activity which can be perceived or got by the persons without doing anything special or anything effort. So efforts are important in order to obtain, in order to procure or to get secondary imagination. So he writes it, to possess the secondary imagination there should be special effort, conscious effort and volition and willpower from the individual or the person. Then the secondary imagination works upon the impressions that have been perceived in the mind by the primary imagination. In primary imagination, whatever the impressions are there of the outer world are brought into mind of the human beings through the senses. In secondary imagination, the impressions that are brought to us or human beings through the senses are second imagination works upon the impressions or the impressions that are brought to us by the primary imagination. We know that the primary imagination just brings the impressions of the outer world, and in the secondary imagination these impressions are the secondary imagination, the individual works upon the impressions which are received by human beings. The effort of the will and intellect play important part here. So effort of the will and intellect or intellectual ability of the person is important in the secondary imagination, because here he has to create something new out of the impressions that are brought to him through the primary imagination. Then in secondary imagination the person selects and order the raw material. The raw material means the impressions that are brought to us by the primary imagination. So impressions or the raw material which has been termed as raw material are selected by the person. It reshapes and remodels into objects of beauty. So impressions are reshaped, impressions are recreated, impressions are modeled as a beautiful form or as objects of beauty. So H.T. Coleridge termed it as esemplastic. So this is the term used by H.T. Coleridge, esemplastic. So meaning of esemplastic is, so esemplastic stands for shaping and modifying power. So esemplastic stands for shaping and modifying. The secondary imagination reshapes, secondary imagination modifies, secondary imagination keep the impressions in proper order. So in secondary imagination we select the appropriate material for the composition of poetry. So secondary imagination is the attribute of the artist, secondary imagination is creative, secondary imagination is active, secondary imagination is conscious. Then, so secondary imagination is also magical, secondary imagination is synthetic power. In secondary imagination, the poet fuses various faculties of the soul perception. The poet here brings, or the poet here unifies, or poet here brings together number of things or the perceptions of the soul, and that perception or number of things can be like intellect, it can be will, it can be emotion. So these things are brought together in secondary imagination. In secondary imagination, there can be unification or combination of or fusing of internal with the external. There can be the fusing of subjectivity with the objectivity, or subjective or objective. Then human mind can be mixed up with the external nature. Then spiritual will be brought together with the physical. So there can be the mixing of, there can be the unification of, there can be fusing of number of things like external, internal, physical and spiritual, then subjective and objective. After that, H.T. Coleridge talked about the difference between imagination and fancy. So we discussed so far two types of imagination, that is primary imagination and secondary imagination. After that, H.T. Coleridge elaborated his views on what is fancy and what is imagination. So according to H.T. Coleridge, fancy and imagination are two different activities, two different kinds. Fancy is not creative power at all. So H.T. Coleridge stated that fancy is not creative. It does not have creative power at all. On the contrary, imagination is creative. Imagination is a creative process. Artistic creation becomes possible when there will be imagination. As far as the fancy is concerned, fancy is not a creative power at all. It only combines what it perceives into beautiful shapes. So whatever impressions are brought into the mind, they are presented into beautiful shapes by fancy. So it is presented in beautiful shapes by the help of fancy. So fancy is not creative. It does not fuse and unify. In imagination, we know that number of things are brought together, they are fused together, they are unified together. As I mentioned earlier, internal and external can be fused, spiritual and physical can be fused. Then human nature with external nature can be fused. But as far as the fancy is concerned, it does not fuse, it does not unify anything. The difference between the two is the difference between mechanical mixture and chemical compound. In order to explain the difference between imagination and fancy, S.T. Coleridge has used analogy of chemical mixture and mechanical mixture and chemical compound. In mechanical mixture, number of ingredients are brought together. They are mixed up in mechanical process. In mechanical mixture, number of ingredients are put together. They are mixed up, but they do not lose their own identities or properties. They do not lose their properties or identity. So number of ingredients, even though they are brought together, they are mixed together, they do not lose their individual identity or properties. They remain their identity even though they are mixed up. So this mechanical mixture is like a fancy. On the contrary, in chemical compound, number of ingredients are brought together, they are mixed together, they are fused together, and they lose their own individual property, they lose their own identity, and new sort of thing is created or made out of their unification. So this is imagination. So chemical mixture is fancy and mechanical mixture is fancy and chemical compound is imagination. So compound is an act of creation, while the mixture is bringing together of number of separate elements. Imagination is unifying power. It enables the poet to see inner relationships such as identity, truth and beauty. So S.T. Coleridge added that imagination is unifying power. Imagination enables the poet to see the inner relationships such as identity of truth and beauty. After that, imagination struggles to idealize and unify. So idealization and unification is important role or the peculiar feature of imagination. On the contrary, fancy is just mode of memory. So this is important point of S.T. Coleridge. So for him, fancy is not a creative process. Fancy does not have ability to bring together or mix together the different ingredients or elements. So fancy is not creative. Fancy is just like a mode of memory. It is emancipated from time and space. So fancy is emancipated from time and space. Fancy deals with superficial resemblance. Imagination deals with the deeper truth. So difference between fancy and imagination is that fancy is not creative. Fancy is a mode of memory. Fancy just reshapes the impressions. On the contrary, imagination is creative. On the contrary, when different things are united or unified, a new product is there. We call it as imagination. So for poetic creation or for composing literature or poem, the imagination is important thing. So fancy is superficial, fancy is emancipated from time and space. On the contrary, imagination deals with deeper truths. So imagination creates new shapes and forms of beauty. It receives different impressions from the external world, and it fuses and unifies them. On the contrary, fancy is not creative.